welcome to Foundations of Astrology. This is just an introduction to the core principles of Western tropical astrology or tropical Western astrology. There are different kinds of astrology, so it's important that you know that we are looking at tropical Western astrology. And the idea of this foundational course is to help you gain a relationship with the sky through observation and understanding. I first want to explain what tropical Western astrology is. And it's really, really important to just start here, because if you're going to start working with astrology in any way, shape, or form, it's really important to know where this comes from and exactly what you're looking at, because there is a lot of confusion on that. Tropical Western astrology explores the relationship between cyclical movements of the celestial bodies and the vibrational patterns that are present here on Earth. So pretty much as above, so below. So for every movement, every person, place, thing, everything on Earth, there's a corresponding planet or point in the sky. Astrology is actually the parent of astronomy. In ancient times, they used to be one science. And today, astronomy is the science of distance, magnitude, masses, motions, speeds, and locations. And it is astronomy that we use to build or to erect the birth chart. And then we use astrology to delineate, or which is another word for interpret the meaning of that chart. It's important to know what the zodiac is. And this is the part where a lot of people get confused. The zodiac is the band in the sky that follows the ecliptic, which is the apparent path of the sun. It's the region, that band where the sun goes, is where the sun and the moon and the planets, they follow that band. Within that band, the ecliptic is divided into 12 equal segments, each of 30 degrees, making a 360-degree circle. The zodiac is not, it's not really a visible structure in the sky, but it's a way ancient astrologers were able to map the movement of the celestial bodies along the ecliptic. So the ancient astronomers and astrologers identified the ecliptic by observing the sun's predictable path against the sky. So it started in Babylon about 2,500 years ago. So this concept is 2,500 years old. One way that you can really understand this in real time is to go outside at sunrise and see where the sun is. And then periodically go outside every hour or couple of hours and watch where the sun is going. Keep that in your mind, the path that the sun took, and that is the ecliptic. And then when the night sky comes, and if you want to look for planets, you are going to look and you're going to remember where you saw that band, and that's exactly where you're going to look, and that's where you're going to find the planets. So I think it's really important to connect with the ecliptic, not just in theory, but to actually go out and observe it. I made a little graphic for those of you that are listening to this as a recording. You can actually go to my Discord and you'll see the graphic that I made. And that's the graphic that I made for the ecliptic. So if you look here on the right, that is where the sunrise is. And then I have the sun here at midday and then sunset. And that's like half of the ecliptic. So just go out and observe that. And this is where it's divided into equal degrees. So in other words, when we are doing tropical Western astrology, we're using the ecliptic We are not using the constellations. I think it's really important to know, to understand that the zodiac is based on the ecliptic and not the constellations. There is astrology called sidereal, or there's Vedic astrology. There are different astrologies that do use the constellations. But tropical Western astrology, when you hear us talking about the seasons, we're in Aries season, we're in Taurus season, that is tropical Western astrology, and it uses that zodiac. And the zodiac and the constellations share some of the same names. And there are actually more constellations than just 12. And so that's where the confusion comes in. And the reason why it's so important to understand this is because it drives home the point that tropical Western astrology is really seasonal astrology, and it's based on the sun's relationship to the earth, and the sky's relationship to the earth. And it's not based on the constellations, because inevitably, if you start talking about astrology, there's going to be somebody that comes up to you and says, this is not true, this is fake, this isn't real, because the sun is not actually in the sign of Taurus. The sun is in the sign of Aries, is in the constellation of Aries. But signs and constellations are different. So it's very important to know this. And this is a 2,500-year-old system. So it's been, and our ancestors came up with this just through observation, just by doing, just by observing the sun's path and then working from there and figuring out that the wandering stars, which is what they called the planets back then, followed the path of the sun. You can see that I have them divided by season because, again, tropical Western astrology is seasonal. And so we start with spring, and then Aries starts at 0 degrees and goes to 30 degrees. This part is super basic, but it's really important to, if you remember the signs in order and remember what season they belong to, then this is going to be really helpful later on when you are remembering or connecting with the signs and what they mean in someone's chart, or what that means in your life. The very first thing, and this is the first thing I did when I was like 14 years old, was I just learned all the signs, the glyphs for the signs and the order of them by writing it over and over and over again. I feel like not everybody is into writing anymore. So there are other ways. There's actually something online you can go to called Quizlet, and somebody made flashcards. So you could even test yourself with flashcards. You could go into your own chart and you could say, okay, now I'm going to find all the Aries signs and I'm going to circle them. And, test your memory that way. I'm going to circle all the, because this is like learning another language. And if you want to have any kind of fluency at all down the road in reading charts, it's super, super important that you memorize the glyphs and you learn this language. These glyphs are ancient, and I love the idea of writing it because I feel like writing does something. It connects us to a part of our brain that remembers these archetypes. Glyph for Aries, let me bring the glyph back, is exactly, if you look at a picture of a ram, it looks exactly, their horns are curled like that, and it looks exactly like that. And, they do a lot of head butting, and it kind of gives you an idea of a little bit about Aries, how they're forward moving, and a little bit of, they're also a little bit hard-headed. Taurus is the glyph for the bull. The circle is the bull's head, and then you could see the horns. Gemini is the twins, and then you see how they're connected, and that's part of Gemini's energy. Gemini definitely connects. Gemini is like the messenger, the networker, the organizer, So a good way to remember that glyph is it's the connector. And then we move down to Cancer, and that is the sign for Cancer is actually the crab's claws. That's what that represents. It's like two sixes or two nines on the sides, or some, you could also think of it as like a spiral, but it's supposed to be the crab claws. Leo, that is representative of the lion's mane. And so Leo is the lion. Virgo, it starts out as an M and then it has that curve in. And so some people have interpreted that kind of as the maiden. The M for maiden is a good way to remember it, holding the sheaf of wheat and in a gesture of modesty. And then we move up to fall, which is Libra, the scales, and that is the symbol for the scales. And then Scorpio is the M, but it has the arrow kind of pointing outward. So the maiden isn't so modest anymore. The maiden is kind of pointing out, but also Scorpio is the scorpion. So you can remember it, that little pointy thing is like the scorpion tail. Sagittarius is the archer, so we have the arrow. The Capricorn is the sea goat, and that one I feel like is one that's less obvious. And that glyph is an intricate loop, symbol where the left side represents the ghost head and the right side represents the fish tail, because there's another part of Capricorn. Some people see it as just the goat, but also it's a sea goat. So kind of like half mermaid, half goat. And then Aquarius is the currents. It's the water bearer is the symbol for it, but the glyph is the currents. And a lot of people think Aquarius is a water sign because of this, but it's not. And so I don't really look at this as water. I look at it more as a current, because it could be an electrical current as well. And then Pisces is the two fish tied together. I think it's really important for people to know the glyphs, for you to be able to just look at those glyphs and be like, okay, that's Aries, that's Pisces, that's Capricorn. Every sign is associated with an element, and it's called triplicities. There are, because it's three signs to the four elements. So the elements in this order are fire, earth, air, and water. And that's how it goes through the zodiac. So Aries is fire, Taurus is earth, Gemini is air, Cancer is water. And then it starts over again. Leo is fire, Virgo is earth, Libra is air, Scorpio is water. And it goes like that through the whole chart. So it's important to remember that order too: fire, earth, air, water. When you go and look at the document, fire is very passionate and energetic. It's very volatile. It's very transformative. It's spontaneous. It's courageous. So when we look at Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, we know that they all three have that in common. So going back to Aries and the ram head, and Aries rules the head in medical astrology, or in the body, and Aries can be hot-headed. So right now we're putting the glyphs and the elements together, and that kind of helps us. For Leo, they carry that fire in their heart. They're very passionate. All three of these signs are very passionate. And then when you move down to the earth, you can see Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And the earth signs are about the physical. So fire is about the spirit. Earth is about the physical. The earth signs all have something about them that are, practical, that are very grounded, very much like in this reality, this earthly reality. They're focused on material things, material security, consistency. And then we have the air signs, which is the intellect. So the air is, that element brings more of like a communicative, very social type of energy, very much with the mind, and the thought process is very apparent in all three of these signs. That is something that they have in common. And then the water signs are about the emotional body, and all the water signs, have that in common with each other. This like emotional empathy that they are able to have, and they can be very intuitive, but in a feeling way, and they feel themselves through the energy rather than thinking through the energy. And then we have the modes. And the modes in astrology those are called the quadruplicities. So there are three modes and there are four signs that belongs to each mode. So we could look at it as like the elements are the type or quality of energy, and the modes are how that energy expresses themselves. So this is the expression of those signs and elements. And it just like the elements, it goes in order, cardinal, fixed, mutable. So, we have Aries and cardinal, and then the next sign is Taurus, that's fixed, and the next sign is Gemini, and that's mutable. And then it starts over. The sign after Gemini is Cancer, and it's cardinal, and then fixed, and then mutable, cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And it's important to remember that order, and that the cardinal signs are the signs that begin each new major season. So Aries starts spring, and Cancer starts summer, Libra starts fall, Capricorn starts the winter. So all the cardinal signs have this initiating type of energy. They begin things, they take initiative, and they get things moving on their own accord. They don't wait to be told what to do. And then the fixed signs, that all comes in the middle of the season. So Taurus is the middle of spring, Leo is the middle of summer, Scorpio is the middle of the fall, and Aquarius is the middle of winter. And these all embody like the most of each season. Like Taurus is the most spring. Everything is blooming and the earth is moist and everything about spring. Leo is like the most summer. Leo is the end of July, August, right? It's the hottest time of the year. And it's all about summer and having fun, like Leo likes to do, and expressing itself. And then Scorpio is like the most fall. That's when everything kind of, starts to, like the light starts to go really down. You start to notice it. It's right around, Halloween time, and the leaves are, usually all fully changed and starting to fall. And there's like no question we're definitely in fall, right? There's no back and forth, right? Like where in Libra, sometimes it's like, oh, we had a little bit of a return to summer. Scorpio is like deeply in fall. And then Aquarius is the coldest time of the year. It's the most winter that we have. And that's kind of how I see the fixed signs. And then the mutable signs, they're transforming. They always come at the end of the season. So Gemini ends the spring, Virgo ends the summer, Sagittarius ends the fall, and Pisces ends the winter, and the whole zodiac wheel. These are mutable, so they're changeable. They're preparing us for change. These signs are all very adaptable, and they know how to shift and adjust and transition, and they know how to respond to what's happening. And so they are the changers of the zodiac. And again, if you want to go to my Discord, I will put the information for the people that are listening in the comments here of this video. You can go and see that I've added a little bit more, some keywords and things. You're going to learn your modes, you're going to learn your elements and understand what they mean. And then you're going to pull up your chart. You're going to count all of the elements and all of the modes. And that's the first thing that I look at when I'm reading a chart. And that is going to tell you something about the chart. This is the little graph on the chart. And everyone, if you go to astro.com and you pull up your chart, it's going to look like this. And this little chart represents C for cardinal, F for fixed, M for mutable. And then we have on the left side, F for fire, E for earth, A for air, W for water. And so in this chart, if we count the cardinal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they have 6 planets. Don't worry about the planets yet, what they mean. We will get into that in the next module. But all of these are cardinal. There's 6 cardinal. There's 2 fixed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 mutable. So here, this person has just about an even number of cardinal and an even number of mutable, and they lack a lot of fixed energy. So right away, before I even look at the rest of the chart, I can just tell that this person is really good at starting things and really good at getting things moving. They might need help or would do really well to work with others in the area of actually being consistent and following through and sticking with one thing because they lack that fixed energy. There's only 2 planets there that are fixed. And then when we look at the elements, we see fire, there's 3, earth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 earth, 3 air, and 2 water. So this person has an abundance of earth. So this chart, it is showing that there's an energy of really being, putting a lot of effort into the earthly and practical, material, physical things. And the physical things, when I say physical things, it could literally mean like your physical body, physical health. It could be physical in terms of material things, in terms of money and finance and resources. Or it could be, physical manifestation of work and career and like actually like the things on earth that we materialize. And I know it sounds really simple, but it is really like the very basic, and you can get like a good feel for someone just by reading this, just by starting out and reading that. So I feel like if you really take the time to do these things, connect with the ecliptic, memorize the order of the seasons and the signs, memorize the glyphs and signs, look at as many charts of people that you know and assess their elements and modes and see if you could recognize the parts of them that express the dominant modes and elements. And it sounds really simple, but if you just start right there, start with your own chart right there, and look at charts of people that you know so that you can see the energy in motion, you'll start to understand this concept a little bit better. And also, this is going to help you understand the signs on a deeper level when we start going into the signs a little bit more deeply. And also, it's going to also help you understand the houses because the houses are also connected to the signs, the elements, and the modes in a certain way. So all of this is really, really important. So I hope all of this makes sense. And I hope everyone goes out and connects with the ecliptic and really takes the time to learn the glyphs, the modes, and the elements.